Hey guys, it's Ollie from Rad Season. Welcome to another episode of the Rad Season Show. I'm super excited to be joined today by a film producer, writer, and the first foreign-born porter to do an Everest expedition. The man himself, Nate Menninger. Nate, how are you, man?
What's up, guys? How you doing, Ollie? And thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. This is pretty cool.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on the show, dude. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm over in Texas. And you're in Portugal, you said.
I am, yeah. So what have you been up to over there? What's been happening?
I took a little break from everything that the film got me caught up in and just kind of left and going on another adventure, but also kind of trying to just refine my center, as weird as Buddhist as that sounds. And now I'm in a little small, I actually don't even know the name of the town I'm in because I didn't even check. I've been here for I think over a week. I'm 20 something miles south of a big city called San Antonio, borderline of Texas, America. And I am chilling very hard. So that's what I'm doing.
And what was the reason to go there? Just to have a bit of downtime and kind of.
Yeah, there was quite a lot that led up to it, but yeah, I mean, I was probably an adrenaline addict, for real. I know it's like a laughing term, but I think an addiction's an addiction, and I was on one for sure for years and years and years and years, and I mean, I'm not that old, so not that long, but I was on one for a while, and so I left thinking I needed another something big, and it kind of culminated in a little bit of disaster, which kind of marooned me here in Texas. And now it's like, whoa, go to ground, get your bearings. Maybe it's time to mature. So
what happened? What, if you don't mind me asking?
I got a little car accident. So,
oh man, no way.
Yeah, I got in a car accident that was pretty serious, and I wasn't scared, and that was the most alarming thing. I wasn't scared. I very well could have died, and that should not be a place. You should be scared. You should be scared of that stuff. So it was like a realigning moment, to be like, okay, well, you see where extreme adrenaline goes. Extreme adrenaline without an anchor, it can go. So it's about the time, I'm 27. It's time to set up anchors. And yeah, I'll still probably be an adventurer, but you need an anchor while you're doing that. So,
yeah, man, that's heavy. I mean, I'm
glad. I didn't mean to get so heavy with that one. I apologize.
No, that's right. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're all right, man. But where did that all? Where do you think that all started? The whole kind of adrenaline seeking.
That's why this is a really interesting podcast to do, because this is the first time I've done an interview. I've done a lot of these interviews, but I was doing them all while pushing the film. And this is the first one I'm giving as I'm returning to who I think I am more of. So it's going to be a different narrative, right? Which is wild. So it started, every time I say the interview, it started when I was in college and I did the running of the bulls. Mm-hmm. And I did that as a 20-year-old in Spain, solo adventuring. And that's when I, fell in love, as I say, with this idea of doing something extreme of someone else's culture, but in their way. Can I do it as a pro who runs there? Can I touch the bull, which you're not supposed to do? Can I do everything the pro does in his language, maybe, and do all this? And can I do it? And I loved it so much, and I became obsessed. But honestly, the reason I probably became obsessed with it is because I was I wish there was a saying, a grind to your teeth or some type of super committed athlete. Every single thing in my brain was athletics. I'll be a pro athlete. Here in America, you make $400K if you're an NFL player out of college minimum. That's as a young guy, that's I was really athletic. That's whoa, okay, I can be done with life after college. I just have to become a pro athlete, and then I have money for real. I can be an adult. And so every single nugget in my brain was driven to that. And then I started getting injured, and the injury spiraled out of control. And at the same time, I found this running the bulls. And I think I just kind of re-diverted, and was like, if I can't become an athlete, I'll just become an extreme athlete.
And you were playing lacrosse, weren't you? That was your...
Yeah, I was playing.
That was your bag?
I was playing lacrosse. I don't know if they have it in Portugal. They probably have a team.
I think so, yeah. I don't know how big it is. It's mainly sort of like soccer, like football's the religion over here, and they're kind of crazy about that.
Right, which is wicked fun. I did track and lacrosse, and my theory was here in America we have the National Football League, American football, and that's where a lot of money is. And so my theory was lacrosse is a safer sport. You don't get as injured. I'll do that for X amount of years through college, and then transfer to football and make the real money. That was my original idea. And I just started getting real injured, and I think I rediverted to this like adrenaline lust. It was that Red Bull era. It was like, how extreme can you go? I changed over to this extreme pursuit. And then over the years, I just kind of spiraled. In a way I loved, but it has ramifications, right? Adrenaline. So,
were you like, yes, when you went to Spain, were you like, okay, I'm going to get in contact with the locals and I'm going to sort of see, what's the way in Pamplona that they're doing it, right? Instead of like people coming over and like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it and we'll get drunk and we'll kind of run with the bulls and it will be fun. Were you sort of like going into it a little bit more and kind of like looking into, I guess, like exactly what they would do? Is that something that you were up to? Or?
It was only the first time. So obviously I didn't really know what I was looking for. I don't mean that in a rude way. All I knew is my parents had taken me travel, and I really liked getting deeper. That's all I liked, just getting deeper into whatever I was going into, right? And doing something crazier and deeper and more extreme. And I really liked that word and those words. And so when I went there, I heard of the Running the Bulls, bought a ticket like the next day, got up there on a bus alone with just a backpack, and bought some clothes, bought a bottle of wine first, obviously, because you have alcohol as your friend when you're traveling. And then just started to try to I guess I started to take it more extreme. I didn't want to spend money, so I didn't sleep the first night. And the second night, I think I stayed up or fell asleep on a bench outside of a club. And I, at one point, locked myself in a bathroom to get 30 minutes, because I didn't want to spend money. I just wanted to really absorb the whole entire event. And I went to the Running the Bulls, and I don't really like speaking English. Like if I'm in another country, I'm there for that country. Like I'm not there for America. I don't really want to speak English. I would rather learn from the people I'm there because I'm here. And I started speaking Spanish with this guy, and he happened to be a professional or not a professional, but he ran 7 times, so he really knew his way. And I just kind of he taught me the ropes and how to run. And then I was pushing the boundaries and just really wanted to know, can I do it as good as them? It was that, can I be as good as the best? Can I be the best? It was a lot about that. And adding the cultural elements on, adding the language or adding other things just made it more unique, right? It just made it more like I'm specialized. Like I can make this a career. Like I can do something no one did, or that's all it was. It was just like an attempt to stand out.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that just that spiraled. I went to, I kept getting hurt. And so then I kept sneaking away from college. And the next year I went to Belize and did this. I was sitting in class and I was like, just crazy things to do. I would just Google that, like crazy things to do in this country or whatever, extreme things. And I found the scuba diving in Belize was the #1 place. And it's like, all right, I'll go there. And then this is when the idea developed to not train, do these crazy things, but not train for them, which is just insanity. But for me, it was I just want to trigger myself completely and see if I can do it getting thrown in. And I did something there again, and that was dumb, looking back on the edge. but I really liked it, and then they just kind of went with that. Yeah, there's so much there, but yeah, I'll let you guys. I'll let you go.
And did that lead on to, like, when you were in Belize, did you then go back, or was that when you then went further down south, didn't you, to like to South America and spent a bit of time in Chile and Argentina?
Yeah.
Was that the same trip, or was that like
No,
after?
that was the next trip. So that was like another
Okay.
project, and I'm writing that, and then graduation came, and it was like I'm not going to get a job because I'm not going to do what everyone else does, and there's a lot of that in it. And so I just took off to South America, and at this point the injuries I had so many surgeries. I mean, so many. I had 4, and one was a double operation, so not a lot compared to some people. But for me, it was like career-ending, anatomy-changing surgeries, and I couldn't. Like, sports was over. I couldn't even handle the thought of like looking at someone else's jersey and being like, it's not my name. So I had to get away. And South America was just like, fuck it, like we'll go there. And I brought a snowboard and a saxophone. I'll be a ski bum, and then that was, I wasn't gonna come back. And that's when I fell into like 2 more. I found this silver lining of like these events, and one was this super C, it's called. It's like one of the biggest shoots in the world. And obviously when you see one of the biggest or baddest or whatever shoots, my eyes spark up because I want it to be the biggest and whatever. And so I did that, and then I was like, that's dope. But as I did these crazy things, every time they always like usually hinged on someone else. They usually hinged on like someone giving me a ride, or meeting someone through Facebook, or doing something really weird that brought me deeper into the culture. And that it kind of started to like morph into like doing extreme things and then doing extreme cultural things. And after doing this backcountry skiing, I ended up snaking my way, or just by luck and fortune, at the edge of a favela in Brazil, which there's a movie, City of God. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's about a favela or a ghetto in Brazil, and how they're so dangerous and everyone dies and there's drugs. And I was like, I want to go there. Like, let's see what happens. I'd be dreaming of disaster, like dreaming, like in a good way, like I wanted
just because you wanted to sort of see like something happening, or you wanted to kind of just sort of think that, you wanted to see it for yourself, that maybe this isn't as bad as everyone kind of talks about, right?
Yeah, I just didn't know. I grew up pretty wealthy and rich, and in the sports world, especially football, it's more diverse, and people will like just crap on you because you're rich, like privilege, this and that. And I took that as an insult, like watch me, I can be poor almost, which is an absurd thought to say, and probably rude and insulting, but that's how I looked at it. I was like, I need to go experience what it's like to be poor, and then see how dangerous danger really is, because I didn't come from danger. So how dangerous is danger, and can I handle danger? And let's go deeper. And I'd get into these places, and this was on the edge of a favela, so not in one, but I sometimes say in because that was my dream. So I kind of like fudge the line. It was the opposite, like I was so down and out, not really wearing a shirt. They took me in, and the capacity for love was just off the charts. And that's when I started to see things from the other side of the coin. Like, everyone calls it a dangerous place, but I'm only seeing the light, or only seeing the good stuff. Like, I hate that. I want the danger. Like, come rob me, come get me. But that's not what was happening. And so after that, after being so poor for 6 months and trying to like just be on my own and survive, I came back and had another attempt at sports, which was the last time, and then kind of just decided to build my life around this idea of extreme adventures, whatever they may be, right? Tying the cultural with the like adrenaline and tying it all together around the world. And so that brought me to Nepal.
And what did you do with the languages? Like, did you study, like, before you went to Spain, for example, or before you went to South America? Did you learn Spanish? Was that something that you were studying when you were in college or in high school, or and then like when you were in a favela, presumably you were kind of like picking up a bit of Portuguese and
Yeah,
just to get by and immerse yourself as well, right?
yeah, that adds the next element. So languages are funny, especially in school. You can't really learn in school. You can't really learn. You can learn the basics of anything, but I can't really learn in school. Like really, really learn how to speak Spanish. And I discovered I had this like just maybe ability. I don't know ability, just to reach a high level quickly through full immersion. Like I could never become the best, I realized, but I could reach a very high level extremely quickly through just like complete commitment and immersion. And when I went to Spain as a 14-year-old, right? So you've been taking some Spanish. I started to do that, like partying more with just the Spaniards and going out more and trying to speak Spanish as much as I could. I came back, like borderline fluent. And obviously I didn't have all the vocabulary, but my accent was good, like was pretty real, I thought. And people would sometimes mistake me eventually, my coming travels for another Spaniard, or never from their country. I was like, if I was in Argentina, are you Spanish, or in Spanish or Argentinian, something like that. But I just found an ability to like throw myself into something and see if I can do it, whatever it is. And that language is one facet of that. So when I was in Brazil, I thrown into this favela, like there's no English. Like I have one semester of Portuguese. I know Spanish. And I walk away like 8 days, maybe 9 days later. I mean, I was in Brazil for a month or so and a half total, but I walk away like, yeah, I don't know every word, but I'm like conversationally fluent in a way, which is just like, it's just awesome. And I took that ability and just like, it was never that I was so good with languages. It's just a full immersion. If you really look at my language ability in the film, like I don't say the highest words. I don't say like the most complicated words, but this basic level, I think I'm pretty good at getting it pretty quickly through full immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that added element onto it. Because if you learn the language, you open up the world. If you learn the language, you get people's more honest perspectives, more honest insight. You get to hear the intonations of their language, which carries a personality. Like languages carry English, the personality is like death, right? There's none to it. I mean, even English from London is more personality than American English. Like aristocratic. So you get to learn all that. You get to learn about how the language goes, how the cultural values through the language, and then it just all comes together, and you get to learn more. You get to experience more. And that was always, maybe I'll meet someone that you love because you learn the language. That was always like a dream of mine. So learn more languages so you can meet someone you love. Yeah.
That's cool, man. And when you left Brazil then, like, did you then go back to the States before you went to Nepal, or like what was the journey?
Yeah.
You were kind of, you kind of had it in your mind that you were like, okay, right, I'm going to kind of take that and sort of push it.
Yeah.
Go deeper. What's the next trip going to be?
I took those together, right? I like made that line between the bowls and the diving and the skiing and the favela. I was like, all right, this is what I'm freaking vibing with life, right? But I was vibing with life probably because I was so poor that these were like a complete opposite, and I just picked them out. So they were probably a little too high. But I came back, tried sports again because my body had kind of recouped, and then it failed. And I was like, okay, the whole point was to play football, and I dropped out of some plays before I even played football, and was like, okay, this will be. I had gotten like a scholarship and stuff, so it was all that. Anyways, I was like, that stopped. I dropped out, and I was like, so I didn't waste any money really. It's just time, and I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. First trip, boom, I'll go from furthest western point of Asia to the eastern point on a motorcycle. I'll go through Afghanistan, the most dangerous places that I can see, and that will be it. And I tried to I need to make a film about this, and I launched a whole thing, and that just completely kind of fell through. But I went to DC to get the visas, I thought, and that fell through, and I got a job and raised a little money. And eventually the boiling point came, and I just pulled the plug and was like, you know, it'd be crazy. You know what I could do for no money? You know what I could do on my own? I don't need a movie. I don't need anything. Like, I could go to Nepal and swear to noble silence in like a James Bond like monastery. And I'll do that for 3 months. And if I teach myself the language, I can just walk into the mountains and knock on someone's door and they'll let me in. Or I can try. And that was my theory. I started learning the language just on my own. I think I bought a ticket, started learning it, discovered that that doesn't actually exist like that, or, you know, was persuaded like there's no vow of silence. There's one, and it's 18 days and or 12 days, and you can just sign up for it. Here in America, I was like, all right, well, I'll do the one in Nepal. I've already bought a ticket there. It'll be more natural. And at this point, I've already either learning or learned the language. I spent like 2 weeks or 3 weeks just like stamping out the basics of a language. You know, the basics of a language to me are like the alphabet, like how you say a sentence, the sentence construction, all the rules you need to know to like grow upon when you're in a country. Because you can learn a language, you can learn words, but you won't be learning when someone else tells you something new. You won't understand the prefix or the suffix, or you just won't understand. So to me, it was like, get the basics. I got the basics. That's enough to learn more, and then go. And there's this vow of silence. I have to sign up, so it's not as cool as it sounds, but I'll just figure it out. And maybe I'll try and go ice climbing after. So I'll prepare for that a little bit, and that will be another challenge. And then I'll write. And I did both those things, and there's quite stories there, you know. So that was the first time I got into mountaineering, which I'm not. I just did it because it sounded crazy. And then I settled down to write. And then I realized at this point, like, there was no point in just doing all these things myself without sharing them with the world. And the story goes that I didn't think anyone would believe my writing, because who would believe this type of shit I was doing? Like, just no one would. And also, who would read it? No one. Like, I didn't even read. I don't read. So why would someone read mine? You know, even if it is a really great book that I want, no one's going to do it. So I need proof. I need visual evidence. And I need to become famous so that people actually buy my books. For those two reasons. I needed a camera. And so I changed my life to try and get this proof. And that's probably where I started stepping off the way. That shortcut, right? It was that shortcut I wanted to take to becoming famous, and just to not becoming famous, but to like being like a operating human being like you. You know, like, I can sustain myself. People are buying my books, so I have income and I can do what I love. And the film was a shortcut.
Was it always writing? Was that the passion that you kind of, like, back then you were like, you know, you wanted to be a writer? And
yeah, well, that was my passion, or that was what I was doing. That's where I felt. I think passion's almost the wrong word. That's just where I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
You know? I think passion is almost like a lot, and passion is not so comfortable. But writing is where I felt comfortable. Passion was like doing this exploring and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I built my life around that and had a bunch of crazy experiences on that path, like writing my own film, thinking that if I joined Nat Geo, that I could pitch them, thinking that if I wrote a series for this director of Black Mirror, who I came in touch with, then they'd give me my own series, and then I'd be good. That falling through, and eventually being like, okay, I have to launch my own thing, but having no idea what that meant, no idea what a film was, no idea that I'd even make a film, you know, just saying that to people, really. And I had a semblance of a vision for an hour-long HBO like serious thing, but I didn't really care, you know. I just needed proof, anything, and barely raised a bit of money, very manic at the time. Took off to Nepal for my first project, which would be my first filmed project, maybe my last, and decided like, I'll just get to Nepal. I'll try and climb Everest as a porter, because I'd been a guide there. The story goes that first time in Nepal, right, I got there, I did a little climbing, I learned the language. that got me a job with Nat Geo, which I got to get my series. But the job with Nat Geo put me in contact in Nepal, because it was back in Nepal, with some very high up people. Those high up people, with them, we had the idea like, well, I want to climb Everest. I have no money. What if I become a porter? Then I don't have to pay, right? And then I could climb Everest, which is dope. And then I could make a movie, and maybe we could show how hard porter life is, because it's clearly pretty hard, but I just want to show it's hard and that I can do it, like, because I'm hard, because I'm strong. And good. That will be my third thing. That will be it. And so when I launched this project, it was because I had that connection, and I felt the confidence. It was because of someone I met on my first trip who I thought could film. It was because all these things that I finally felt comfortable launching it. And then, of course, most of that just fell through because I was crazy. And I ended up in Nepal, having told the world I was going to do this, having taken money from friends and a physician's assistant, like real people who are good in their careers. And everything fell through. And I was just like, oh my God, now I'm in Nepal. I have some camera equipment that's really bad, in that I don't even really know how to use. I have money that I'm taking from other people, right? And I don't know like really how I'm spending it. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I was like, damn, I was still believing that if I kept going through that this money would come, but it never did. And so I got up and just was like, I have no one to work with. I'll go into town and see if I can find someone to work with. And I just asked and knocked on doors, and someone decided to work with me, and okay, boom. And then I'll keep going through the steps and learning climbing techniques, because if I do that, then the money will come, like just keep going. Something will come. And the money never came, but I met a videographer through learning climbing techniques for Everest, which I never employed. And then we had two pots in the pan, I guess. That's not what they say, but two droplets. And now, okay, we don't have enough money, but I have enough money just to go to Everest Base Camp, which won't be that fun, but whatever. It's enough to prove what I do. It won't be as extreme, but it's enough. It's enough. And then it will be proof. And I took off, and that was it. And then that was where things really went south, in a good way, but bad way, because as anyone would, if they're so like built around this as your life, like I didn't really have money at the time. All the money was used from other people, and I was kind of a leech and have been. So I went as deep as I could go. Like, this is my one chance to prove to the world what I do. I have a real cameraman somehow that I met oddly a few days before actually starting, because the other one dropped out because I was crazy. Like, what do I do? Well, I'm going to go as deep as I can. I'm going to take on every single facet of their life. Like, if they have one shirt, I have one shirt. If they don't shower, I don't shower. Whatever they eat, whatever literally, like, obsessively, too much.
How did you get the companies to take you on? Did you just go around different like porter companies and try and see if they would hire you?
Yeah. For those who haven't been to Nepal, it's hard to understand, but this industry is like the tech industry to America. Right, the country has been built around it, and there are so many companies. I mean, like 2, 3, 4 stacked to one building, and they're like buildings everywhere in downtown. And there's like insane. It's like Starbucks times 10 in New York City. It's a lot. And so I just went and knocked on doors, and the first door I came into agreed, and I went and knocked on another 19, or maybe it was just 10, I don't know, and they all said no. It was just this first one. I was like, okay. And I did so like pretty much illegally. I didn't have a working visa, so this would be illegal. But we were showing something good, so it's okay, And then I just took off and did it. And they let me in. And for the first 8 days, hiking through the first quarter of the film, third, I didn't really know like if this was real. Like, I didn't know if there was actually going to be someone, if I have actually worked with a company. Like, I didn't know anything, as you wouldn't know. I just kind of went on this word and and left and was kind of shooting this. I hope we're shooting this for something. I don't know what we're shooting this. Maybe this will be 5 minutes of the film, maybe more. I don't know. And the deeper I'm getting, you know, hoping that someone's going to meet me there, they do. Now I can finally rest because we actually have a job and it's real. And I just get there and text someone and like hope that they respond, and they do. And then they'll meet you. I was like, oh my God. And we meet them and then it starts. And I start working with them, and from then I can start to relax because, okay, now the job is clear. Like now that the edges are set, I know where I fit. I don't have to lead this right now. I'm just a follower, which I feel much more comfortable as. And, but I'm still making a movie, which I don't know how to make at the same time that I'm trying to immerse myself in someone's life completely, which as a traveler, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but as a traveler, is it okay? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, perfect, man. And you were trying to basically like replicate everything that they were doing, right? So almost like everything, like the day-to-day of what the porters were doing, from like sleeping, eating, drinking, everything.
Everything. And as a traveler, there's a degree of respect. It's just like a guest in a house, right? Like you let them lead. You do what they ask you to do. You never want to break that character of being the guest if you're wanting to be the best guest, right? So I'm always trying to like answer to them. I always say pander, but that's a wrong word because I'm just trying to answer and listen and learn. But the problem is I'm making a movie at the same time. That's supposed to be my career. And I don't know how to make a movie. And I'm like in these two worlds at the same exact time, and the stress, there is none because there's no processing. Like stress implies you're processing things, and I'm like, there's no processing. I'm just like completely on one. You know, I don't need to, when you do an adventure, I guess someone said it's Aries, which is weird, but when you do something like this, like I don't need to sleep as much. I don't need to eat as much. Like my body comes secondary to the product, which is how I treated things and how I used to and have, which is what I want to change now to be a good person. Or not good, just sustainable. But anyways, I'm I'm trying to organize this film, which I don't know how to do. So I'm kind of giving him more reins because he knows a lot. He's been to film school, but I'm still an obsessive director, trying never to leave the character of being a worker, because I'll taint the product. Like I won't really know what it's like to be them. I won't know if I could have handled it to be them, you know, if I keep coming out. And plus it's also just rude. Like it's just very rude amongst people who are not making a lot of money to be coming out of character and reminding them that you're making a film, which obviously costs money, and that you have something else you're doing. It's very rude. And
how were they with the filming? Were they okay with it, or did it take like a bit of time for them to kind of get used to it? And
yeah, well, unfortunately, you know, you probably brandish the white wealth in their face being who I am. So like, I'm going to bring a camera, you know, like I don't care what people say, which is screwed up. You know, that's straight imperialism. And these are all the things that came into my mind later that I had to come to discover. But it's like, do they have it? You know, they're already extremely subjugated people. So do you have a choice? Like you're already a worker. If this guy's bringing a camera, you just, okay. But it's obviously invasive. It's invasive. And because of how I acted, right, as we went, I not only tried to assimilate, but like I tried to take more, right? I tried to like do worse, right? Give me more weight. I want to sleep on a harder place. I want the worst possible circumstance that you can have. I want that, you know, even though we're in season, we're out of season, and there's enough blankets for everyone to go around to have two, right? They told me in season, you only get one. So I'm like, I only want one, right? Which obviously, if you're a worker, you're like, dude, this guy's a lunatic, right? Like, well, this guy's an idiot. But it can make you laugh just like that, and like ingratiate. You know, that's the word I've come to learn. It can be like, all right, this guy's just nuts, and you know, we get down with nuts people. You know, people like some eccentricity, and so it got me in more and more. And eventually, everyone warmed up. And the best scene in the whole film, to me, the most comfortable, is when the cameraman is not there and just another porter picks up the camera, and everyone is so comfortable. It's like true. And that's a singing moment in the film at the high camp. And it was just real. It was very real. And it was like, oh, like we're getting past that point. I was just the guy with the camera, but it did take a while. And I did come to learn about everything I did that was incorrect going into it. And that was why I came out pretty screwed up, because I had like lived this life so seriously. And the reason I stressed the fact that I was doing this film at the same time and that I was overloaded and that I wasn't processing was because eventually you're going to have to process it, right? Like, this is life. You did something, you're going to have to process it. And when I came back, I flew straight. I don't know if you want to ask questions. I just like,
no, go.
I'm just on one. I flew straight to Hollywood 2 weeks later on the same, the same train of thought that I'd become famous. And now I was super caught up in it because that's how I raised money. I had pivoted from a document to help them to more so just me becoming famous. And that's what raised money. So that's what I followed. And now I'm in LA trying to become famous. I mean, to sell my film, this film, which I know is real, which could just be a clip. At this point, a trailer is enough. I don't even care if this thing burns, like just enough to show. I didn't even have my thing backed up, or I just needed enough to show them that this was real, that I was real, that I could do this. And I was having meetings and sleeping on a friend's couch and neglecting myself and biking around Los Angeles, which no one does. And my bike didn't even have brakes. And my bike wasn't even my bike, it was my friend's bike. And I was eating 7-Eleven hot dogs. And, it was a pretty miserable existence. But I was like, this is the artist. This is how you make it. You have to suffer and all that crap. And having these big meetings and pitching this thing. And eventually, having really good success and having really big meetings, but at the same time, not having any, like, they weren't giving me a job. They weren't signing me. I wasn't getting famous. And then realizing
it was just 2 weeks afterwards, right? Like when when you left.
It was. And because I was more so what happened is I'm lying on my friend's couch. He's from England and absolute genius, Stanford, MIT guy, rocket scientist. I'm with rocket scientists. I'm lying on their couch. It's like an incubator. And I am like not doing well. I'm not doing well mentally at all. This is after years of this like pursuit, right? Since that South America, really, when I took off, just like, I'm not doing well. I don't know why. And so like, I really want to be famous and get this, but at the same time, I'm like mentally imploding and I just don't know why. And eventually I come to realize or just convince myself that like me becoming famous, me relinquishing control to someone else would be like the death. It would be my death. Like I would off myself in the future, some however many years down the road, it just wouldn't work. And okay, so I left there to A, edit the movie, and B, recoup. My dad had an editing system, and so he was either stay in LA at one of his friends and edit the film, which I didn't want any of my family's help at all, so that was weird, and I'd be in a weird spot, or go home and admit defeat. And luckily there's an editing system there so you can work there, so you don't really have to fully admit defeat. And I went home, and the second I left Hollywood, I knew I was leaving Hollywood. Like, I feel like it's a city that it's not only a city but an industry where you really gotta buy into it to make it in it. You really gotta like get with it to make it. And I just left, and I knew that, or I thought, if I leave, I might never have this. I might never have this dream. So, but I have to stay alive. And I came back and started editing through the film, sending it to Hollywood, continuously trying to get them to buy my show and series and XYZ. But they're not, so I edit more. And then they're not, so I edit more. And then they're not, and I edit more. And it goes from a couple minutes to more and more, to just highlight reels of myself in Nepal, talking heads, like a normal travel show. And I don't want to crap on those, but I think we're entering a different era. But anyways, just doing more of that, and like me telling you about their culture and a lot of that, and because I recorded that stuff, and then eventually getting deep enough into it that I just kind of I realized I had to make the film, and that was after months of editing, which obviously I never knew how to do. I never knew how to make a movie, so I had to learn all the processes of making an actual film, which is like a house, like there's like a lot of fucking shit in making a movie. Like as simple as setting things up and loading footage into how you do calibrate monitors for coloring, and there's just an insane amount of knowledge. And I didn't know any of it, but I didn't really have any money. And so I didn't have any other option, because I couldn't just forget this. I couldn't just like go get a job. Like I had to do this still. And eventually came the point when it hit harder, is when I got a manuscript of an interview we did with the Porters our last day. And I had understood the problem pretty effectively by this point, like the problem of tourists and how they're, et cetera. I understood a lot of it, but then this manuscript came through, and I didn't even conduct most of the interview. Like, it was the last day. I was tired. I said a few questions just about money. I'd say I'm Jewish, but we don't want to propagate any stereotypes. But I was just focused on the money only, and then that cameraman stepped in and he interviewed them for like 20 plus minutes. And I just sat there like in awe, like, oh my gosh, like, you're saving me. And I have no idea what you're even saying at this point. Like, I'm dead. I can't even catch up. I don't even understand most of people's words. I just like have learned enough languages that I can understand what they're saying. And I had never really known what this manuscript said. And he sent me back a translated version, and it was just like, oh my gosh, it was like, you could feel the tone of their voice. You could feel the struggle. You could feel the sorrow. You could feel the manicness, and how completely subjugated they were, and how they weren't making any money, and maybe making more just because I was there, and realizing like you can't send your kids to school, like really realizing it. Like, it's not, you can say I can't send my kids to school, but to feel that, right, is a whole nother thing. And I truly think, because I had lived as a porter like so strictly, that it's artistic, and maybe it's bullshit to say, but maybe I had imprinted on my like emotional genome a feeling of what it's like to porter, like for real. And I had never processed that. And granted, it's never going to be true to them, because I'm still a foreigner, so I don't really rely on the money, so it's not as strict. But I could like kind of feel what they felt now, maybe. And so because of that, it hit hard, and I just realized everything. And it was like the most terrible. I was like, oh my God. I went there as like a white guy, just trying to like completely come into their life and film a movie, and that's like really bad imperialism. And then I just like walked away, and then like I was just trying to.
You start feeling guilty, right, on it for everything.
Oh my God, just like the most. I'd say Jewish again, because we have the Jew guilt, but no, it was the worst guilt, dude. It was the worst guilt. I hated it so much. It was this weight that just got heavier and heavier and heavier. And it was just like, now I felt that at this point, because my mind is obsessive, I felt that like every single decision I made was going to affect these people's lives, and not only their lives, but past porters, future porters. Like, their life has never been shown. There's been so many movies about Everest, and yet no one knows what it's really like to porter. And this life, maybe it gets shown in the future, but like, I am in the position of having connections and being to several universities, and like having these alumni networks, and being who I am to spread a film. If I make a film, I can do that. And the burden of that was like the fact that I can do that, and that I have the only proof of it right now in the world of like this, what I considered at the time indentured servitude. Because how could you be making less money than you spend in a day? Like, that's where all this festered from, right? We got at the high camp, we spent $20 and we're only making 15, which That's what really drove all this discovery. And then realizing, like, oh my God, I stepped in there as an imperialist. All my actions are going to dictate what happens, blah, blah, blah. Their salary is low. It's too low. They're spending more than they're earning. And I'm responsible for all of this now. And that screwed me up pretty badly. So, yeah,
Did you feel all this responsibility then, like almost after the movie came out, and once you had more time to kind of decompress it and think about it? How are you going to use that to basically help the situation and
Yeah, it was in the thing. Right? It's not like I'm a good person. Like I just told you my story. I was pretty self-centered, and that's where I feel best, honestly. But I had walked into this, and then I had walked into this guilt just blindly, and you can't really get rid of guilt. The only way to get rid of the guilt is to get rid of the project, right? But I couldn't just get rid of the project because I was so guilty. Because if I just got rid of it, knowing everything I did and knowing that it wasn't going to solve anything, I would just feel guilt for the rest of my life.
No.
So I really obsessed about way too much about the film, editing it. It was finished, and I edited it for another couple of months, every single frame, like a freaking crazy person. So much so that I was going left, right. A frame is 1 something millisecond, one fraction of a millisecond, and I'd look away from the computer and then just be like, I'm done with that. I couldn't even see what I did because I was that obsessing. And then eventually it came out. Good, I'm going to be done, right? I'm going to be done. This is going to be off my back. But I wasn't famous, so no one's going to watch my film. I just did all this work, and I know this, and I did my job, but no one's going to watch it. So have you really done your job? And in the film too, I was so obsessed with too. I think the reason it's powerful, but also my problem is I had learned coloring and audio mixing because I didn't pay others because I was a control freak, which is more powerful for a film because it makes it all my vision, right? But that's not good for real life. You got to learn to work with others. But I think that's why the film is powerful. As I explained to someone, and I'll hopefully write this down, when you make a film, I believe good art is consistency of emotion, right? And I described it like any scene can carry any emotion. So if one scene is carrying sorrow or empathy or depression, that's like a punch in your gut in that location. And for my film, I wanted to punch someone every single time in that exact location to absolutely debilitate them in that location, and just hyper focusing on that emotion and leading with that. I would listen to depressing music as I was making the film all the time, right? And that was the tone, and just pounding people with that emotion. So at the time, it's an aggregate build of whoa, Jesus, that was heavy. And that's how I describe it to people, which is, I think, a good way of describing it. But I don't even know what I was saying. I came out of the film, made the film. No one was going to watch it. And I was like, this is the problem, because my career is still at a standstill. I just spent all this time. I'm still not moving anywhere. But also, no one knows about this issue. And I was so stuck in that depression that you don't just come out of that, I'd self-imposed the depression that I had to unlearn it, but that's what I'm doing now. So anyways, I pushed the film, and there's always this dichotomy between my life is inextricably linked to theirs. My success is weirdly linked to theirs. I don't want to be helping others. No human being should spend their life helping others. And I mean, in terms of completely sacrificing yourself to do it, right? It's not sustainable for humanity. But at this time, there was no other option to get out of this besides helping them, which was helping me, right? And so I did a whole publicity campaign and got it out, and et cetera, et cetera. And as I did the campaign, more and more information came up that was just even more harrowing, that really was not good. Like stuff like before we filmed the film 3 months prior, the government had passed a law stating that all workers are getting paid 20 and we were getting paid 15. So now there was like this government thing caught up and it was against the government laws, and I found out other companies weren't doing it either. So there was like this systemic issue of like way over my head stuff, and look like realizing like, wow, you know, like what you've gotten into like an issue that's freaking global at this point, you know, because Everest is just one mountain. You know, you come to learn that mountaineering and trekking is like, I got a quote, it was 25% of the world's tourism. Whether that's accurate, I don't know, but if you think about it, Machu Picchu, Kazakhstan, Tanzania with Tanzania with Kilimanjaro, like there's an insane amount of trekking and mountaineering all over the world. And there's a lot of money, and Everest is the pinnacle of that. So it's representative of the whole industry. And here I am, like behind the whole thing now. And I'm like, oh my God, I know why it's bad. I know that because I've been the tourist who paid no money to climb a mountain. I've been the guide, and now I've been the worker. So I had like the full experience. And because of that, I had all this knowledge about like what's really screwed up. And so it didn't feel right to just like get rid of the film. I felt like I had to make systemic change. I don't know why I felt that, but I just did, because it really just boils down to the two workers who I worked with. You know, like they gave me my career. Like the thing is, whether I want it or not, this film will have sparked my career forever. You know, like this interview.
It's a part of your life, right? And something that, you know, a big part.
Yeah, it's in the public light. So it's like, if I ever do write a book, it will sell more because I did this film and because I did interviews like this. Like it will. I can't, unless I just become something completely unrelated, which I might, but it's related. So it's like, okay, well, these guys gave me my entire career. That's pretty, now I have to help them, but just those two guys. And I can't help those two guys without helping the whole system, because it's not, you don't want to be the white guy just helping two guys, like another dude just giving some money or building one school, and now all the other porters hate you, because I can't do that either, because that would feel really bad. And eventually it led sending emails out, as many as I could, sending emails out. I know we've been going for a while, but I sent emails out to everyone I could for publicity, starting at the lowest level and just trying to build a platform. And one of the emails I sent was to the International Federation, Climbing and Mountaineering Federation, which is like the United Nations of this industry. So we have 80-something delegates and 60-something countries, and they all report to them. They create standards and XYZ. And they were like, we want to accept donations. And I was like, you can't accept donations. Like, I haven't accepted donations before because there's no where to give them to actually help. Like, there already are nonprofits, but the issue I walked into is the systemic issue, like the government bill and no companies following it, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, we can't do that. Like, we need to make a system to solve it. And I've been told many different things, a certification system and et cetera, et cetera. And that nugget of like, we want to do donations, but, you know, we want to support your film and take donations, but you can't, because I said no, unless there's a project led to them asking Nepal if Nepal could support it. And then they were like, okay, Nepal supports it. So both of us are on board. And these are like very high level people, you know, almost governmental people. And okay, now everyone's on board. So if we're accepting money for taking money, where's it going to go? Well, it doesn't exist to solve this. So let's build an initiative. You know, it didn't really go as quickly as that, but let's build something to fix this, and then pulling more people on and internationally bringing people on, and eventually leading to the creation of a mountain worker initiative, which is, we'll see how it develops. And it might develop in a way, it probably will, I won't expect. But the premise behind it was to like solve the whole system. And the reason I'm here now in Texas is because that I had this article I had to write, which was an expose, and I couldn't release it. And it was all about the finances and like how Everest is, what's really going on. Like it's a very big piece in terms of the scope of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can tell it's like, oh, it's kind of going to destroy mountaineering and trekking. And I couldn't release it. I couldn't release it, partially because I just made a film for other people mainly. And so I didn't even feel confident in my own voice. And I didn't know what was right, my voice or their voice. And I just was like, I can't even write. I'm not even confident to know which direction to take this. Like, this is good writing, but is this good? Is this good? Is getting obsessed with good and bad. That's why I left to gain clarity. And then, you know, discovered a whole lot of shit. But otherwise, that brings us almost full circle.
So what do you think you're going to do?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is coming back down to earth. So I went to the biggest problem I had was I was sacrificing myself, like my livelihood. Like I was secondary, I think, to my work, right? To becoming famous or this project or whatever it was. And thinking that I could solve the world, that I could build a company that could save the world. And I was like, I'm fucking 27. I was 26 and helped make an initiative that was one of the biggest. It's massive. Like that's an ego trip, you know? And I was doing it. I could do it. You know, you see my eyes get big because I was doing it, and I'm going to go farther and bigger. And it's tempting. How much can I do? I can make a company that's bigger than Sony and this and that. And like, I could fix everything and take it. And the thing is I was neglecting myself at the very same time. And I've come to realize just in this trip from bad experiences, which are good because they're realigning, that it's like, how can anything healthy come from a place of unhealthiness?
Yeah.
Like, how can I claim to be like saving the world or some shit when I'm neglecting myself? Like when I'm not even living like a normal life, you know, like I'll drink and smoke on the weekends as people do here and now, but never am I like really enjoying life. Everything was career really focused, and I'd live in a place I didn't really like, or I'd just sacrifice. I'd get in my car and put everything in my car and live in a car to try and get some famous interview. And damn, that's some unbalance. And I realized I can't even trust myself to say I'm creating something good and great, and when I'm neglecting myself and thinking that I am the only one who can control this, that I have to control other people. It has to be this like company that I like. Damn, it's very easy to become a bad person and to not even know, you know, to not even know that you're like a really bad person. And yeah, so right now it's about being a human. This past 5 years have all been about like career and getting it and shortcut and doing this and that, and now it's like, oh wow, okay, so I gotta figure out how to live like a human, you know, like for real. And that's, I was speaking with a friend of mine who I believe is like the Picasso of this generation. He's English. He lives in Cornwall. His name is Sax Berlin. I'm sure we'll all hear about him someday. But it was funny because here he is. If I think he's Picasso, right? He was a guide for a lot of the time, and we just kind of realized simultaneously, like, shit, and maybe we were the ones sleeping. You know, here we thought we were the creative masterminds, and it's like, damn, maybe we had it wrong. You know, like maybe we're the losers. Maybe like you should be living. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, man. I mean, it's sort of like, you know, you get so overwhelmed with either the build or career or, you know, all these kind of like lofty goals that you sort of forget about the day to day, right? It's kind of like, you know, whether it's entrepreneurship or, you know, you can get fixated on something that everything else kind of like falls to the wayside. So it's good to take a step back, breathe, get outside, actually, and then like think about yourself, and then thinking like, okay, how can that then help, right?
Yeah, how can it help in a way that's good for you, natural?
Yeah,
in a way that's natural. Like if you're destined to become the greatest podcaster ever, I mean, not destined like destiny, but if that's good for you, like it will happen naturally.
Yeah.
Stop trying to force to become the president or the CEO or the best podcaster. Stop trying to force it. Like
exactly. And then if you kind of put too much of this pressure on whatever it is, it just then almost doesn't come across natural anyway, right? And then it probably if it works sometimes, okay, obviously you got to work hard in whatever it is, but then certain other things have to fall into place. It's not like I'm just going to work the hardest, then it's going to happen. It's sort of like there's other factors that kind of make it work as well.
Yeah, exactly. And the frightening thing for me was when I did work, it did happen. So that was what was particularly frightening for me, because I could get misaligned and keep making things happen, but just not really know how they're happening. Like,
and then deep down, like right in your head, you're thinking like, all right, how's my mental health doing? Like, am I right here, or is it sort of like
ignore it?
Exactly. You kind of push it to the side, and then you're like, all right.
Yeah, and then you're like screwed by the end, and it's like, oh my god, I just created a beast, or who knows? So yeah, it's pretty that kind of sums up the whole entire thing. I mean, that's a wild.
That's so interesting, man.
It's
crazy.
It's wild, but it's nice to come and try and, as someone told me recently, maybe it's time you redefined adventure. And I think I'll probably continue to do like adventures that I want. That's I still live my life kind of selfishly, and I think I'll always have to. Like, I want to go do this in this country, and screw it, like a playground. But being more responsible, like knowing there are steps you still have to take to become, a self-sustaining person, have a place, et cetera, a job. Like, how can you do this stuff and just like it's your job? Like, yes, I have a home and my job happens to be extreme exploring, but someone else's job happens to be as a nurse or as a this or as a ER surgeon. There's no difference. It's just the job. What's important is the base, which I don't have. Which is I kind of went about the opposite. I went about life the opposite way. Like trying to get my career off before my life. That makes sense.
Yeah, and then now sort of you kind of like trying to switch it around then. Sort of thinking like, okay.
Yeah, instead of launching my dream and I have kids and a family and I'm stable, I'd launched it before. Maybe everyone has to do it at some point, but I just reversed it, and which I like that way, because now I got the really hard work out of the way. I got the really, I explained it to someone like, you can, let's say there's like a set amount of suffering in your life. I don't know. I mean, maybe, can you just like condense that all in one time period and then like get it over with and then chill? And maybe that's just bullshit. Maybe that's not the way, but I certainly experienced a lot self-imposed during those few years that it would be nice to not experience as heavy dosage like that for a while.
Yeah, and it will go through circles as well, right? It's always like, you get highs and lows, and people come in and out of your life, and all sorts of things happen. It's kind of, that's the fun part. It's always an adventure. So
I know. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for the adventure now, but yeah, that's some wild stuff. So I don't know. Awesome, I just feel like you're like, damn, this guy is nuts.
super good, dude. What if people want to follow what the next chapter is going to be, and like what you're up to? If they want to get in contact, what's the best way?
I mean, all my contacts are on the web. If you just like Google my name, I'm at this point, because I've done so much publicity, you can find it. I think I'm trending away from Instagram It's just not healthy for me. And I can lose a lot of time to it. I do have an Instagram, but just search my name and you'll find it. But I think YouTube is likely. I think YouTube could be a way to release your work how you want it, you know. So I think I'll probably like put out writing there, or I don't know. I mean, I think if I have to get people to follow me to do whatever I do next, I'll work on that. Right now, if you want to follow me, you can, but I don't really care. I mean, it might help make me money and survive eventually, but I got to figure that out either way. So I don't really. There's no point to talk about that stuff.
And what about like? Do you think? I mean, later on, would there ever be a book that you want to kind of produce on the Porter? Or
yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. It wouldn't be on the Porter, but the main thing propelling me now is like I still have this this article, right? I wrote the article, right? It's done, but it's like really charged, and to release it by itself was giving me a lot of apprehension because I don't really know why, you know, probably because it just stood out and might create more problems than good. And so it's like, okay, I still have all this information, which I feel like should get out, but what's the right way? Well, I guess I'll just start processing everything I've done for the past few years. And I've written a lot. I go back into writing now, which is nice to be in this place separate from society so I can focus on what I'm writing. And like, I have so much done, like hundreds, over 100,000 words. And it's like, all right, well, I guess it's time to just get it all out and get that phase over with. Get all the writing out so I can just get this article out, right? It's just it's like to get to the summit, which is all I need. I feel like I have to do the whole mountain. And so I'm trying to do the mountain right now and then get that article out. Because without the article, no change. No one will know what's really going on. But to get the article out in a way that you feel like it, without being forceful, right? Whereas if you just release the article, it's like a forceful, like, here's the reason, like, do this, everyone go and look at this initiative, where it's like, then it's bias. That's going to come across as bias, and to remove yourself from it and present it more objectively, I think I got to go through all the shit before. And it's like, all right, well, I got a few months. The initiative did bring about, which maybe you'd like to talk to him later. And actually, the initiative, that's why I say I didn't know how it would come about, maybe in a different way. Yeah. But a lot of people came to me after the film with their ideas. And this is how I got obsessed with business. Like, I'll make a mind these ideas. And
were they like, oh, you should do this, or like,
or they come with their ideas. Okay. And I was, I'd like to foster other people's ideas, kind of like a VC. And initially I started that, but one guy, and I've kind of segued away from that, you know, because of what's happening. But one guy, he's kind of taking the initiative and running with it within an incredible idea at Everest, which is a mountain in Russia, one of the 7 summits. And it's really developing fast, and it's just an absolutely incredible idea. I can pass you this stuff, but it would be for this summer, and he's trying to get just as many people on board, and it's like succeeding. Like, he got a lot of serious, and it's all about diversity. It's really, really cool. There's stuff about it online. I think he's got a website, and if you want to be behind a project before it gets going, I'd be happy to pass you on. But that's something maybe I'd be involved with at the end of July. So it's like I got 3 months to figure it out. So yeah,
cool,
that's my life. I wish I could learn about your life, but
another time. Cool, man. All good, dude. Well, thanks so much. It's been super interesting hearing everything, like hearing you open up and, you know, kind of talk about how the Porter, like how it began and why, and then obviously like the result. And I hope it goes well with putting that all together, putting the report, and it's kind of,
well, we'll go as it go.
That's it, man.
But yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, there's I know it was a little bit deeper, but
That's good though.
You just want an interview. Like I've done like a lot of. You just want to. No, you don't want the same interviews.
No,
That's boring.
that's it. I want to go deep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it caught me a good time, and I appreciate you reaching out, and yeah, hopefully it goes well. It goes well on your end too.
Thanks, man. Just it.
Thank you.